I think we might have overdone it a little bit. Hello everyone, this is Venom, and we are back for another Destiny 2 video. It is night 6 of the 2024 Guardian Games, and as you can see, my hunters are killing it right now. That being said, to help out the Warlocks, I already did a Warlock build, so here we're going to have a build for the Titans. This is going to be a build that's going to be rated for low to mid-tier content. That's what all the Guardian Games are about, low to mid-tier stuff. You're not going to bring this one into the Grandmasters. It's going to be one that's going to let you take out tons of enemies very quickly. You're going to be able to wipe out groups of enemies with just a single melee attack. Now, what's this going to revolve around? It's going to revolve around the Severance Enclosure. It is an exotic chest piece for the Titans. Let's go over it. The Severance Enclosure is a very, very unique exotic. It's got some hidden mechanics to it. We're not sure if they're actually hidden mechanics or if they count as a bug, but they are currently working, so that's what we're doing. The way this works is your powered melee final blows and your finishers will create an explosion around you, and it is a pretty powerful explosion and will pretty much wipe out any red bars around you. Same thing in finishers. Now, the higher enemy or higher tier enemy you kill, the more powerful the explosion is going to be. Now, here's the thing. With the melee portion of this, it's supposed to only work with powered melees. However, I think almost every single, and I'm still going through and testing, I think almost every single subclass has a way to trigger this with your regular melee, not just your powered melee. I'm going to be showing you not only how to work this build, how it's supposed to work, but I'm going to show you how it actually works with its regular melee too. You're basically going to be able to walk into a room, just punch an enemy, and wipe everything out. I'm going to demonstrate it. It's really fun to use. So let me show you the build first. So our first aspect is going to be offensive bulwark. It says, while you have an overshield or inside Ward of Dawn, your grenade charges significantly faster, you have increased melee range and damage, and melee final blows extend the duration of your overshield. You gain an additional shield throw while in Sentinel Shield. That's your super. We're going to be using the Sentinel Shield super. Now the other aspect is Bastion. It says, cast your super to grant overshield to nearby allies. However, it's the second part that's most important. Casting your barricade grants overshield to yourself and nearby allies, and empowers it, enabling it to slowly regenerate the overshield of allies bunkering behind it and extend their overshield duration. Basically, what this means is when you put down your barricade, it's going to give you an overshield automatically. Now, as far as your grenade, we're going to be using Vortex Grenade. It is the best grenade for the Void subclass. For your melee, you can use either melee you want to. However, I recommend using Shield Throw just because it is a ranged melee and will help you get your overshield. Because it says, hurl your Void Shield towards the target. The shield can ricochet off targets and surfaces, granting overshield for each target hit. So the way this build works is, besides your powered melee, which this would be, getting a hit and killing enemies, we need an overshield to make our regular melee also be able to do what we're gonna show up here. So this will help you do that as a range. Now, you can use Shield Bash. It says after sprinting for a short time, use this melee ability to unleash a devastating Shield Bash that suppresses a target. Final blows with the Shield Bash grant an overshield. This only works off of final blows. Shield Throw works for any target hit, and it works at range. That's why I recommend using Shield Throw for this build and not using Shield Bash. Now, of course, for jumps, whatever jump you want to use. Now, as far as your barricade, we're going to be using the Rally Barricade because it comes back quicker. You could technically use this with either one, but we want Rally Barricade because it's got about half the cooldown timer, and we're going to want to get this back as often as possible. Now, for our fragments, we're going to have the Echo Persistence. It says, void buffs apply to you, Invisibility, Overshield, which we're going to need, and Devour, which we'll be using, have increased duration. Now, we've also got the Echo of Obscurity, Finisher, Final Blows, grant Invisibility. I have this on pretty much any Void build that I end up doing. Echo of Starvation, picking up a Void Breach or Overpower will grant Devour. So this is going to not only be able to turn you invisible with this build and wipe out whole rooms, you're also going to be able to get a ton of Overshield and Devour, which means you will be healing yourself constantly with all these kills you'll be doing. And then finally, to help you create those Void Breaches, we're going to have the Echo of Cessation. It says, Finisher final blows create a burst of void damage that causes nearby combatants to become volatile. Defeating volatile targets creates a void breach. Now, even though we can use finishers to make this build work, we're going to mainly be doing melee. But if you can't get a finisher off, you're going to go ahead and do so. You're basically just going to run up to an enemy and you're going to melee them, and then whatever happens, happens. But again, I'll demonstrate that here just a little bit. Now, for this build, for your stats, you're going to want to put everything into resilience first. Afterwards, go ahead and put it into strength. You're going to want to get your melee back as quick as possible. After that, go ahead and put whatever you got left into discipline. Anything else, really, you don't got to worry about, but it's going to mainly be resilience, then strength, and then discipline as your final stat. Now, as far as helmet mods go, I was testing this out using hands-on to see if I can get my supercharge quicker using this build. It was not really charging as quick as I'd like, so I would go ahead and recommend just using the heavy ammo finder and heavy ammo scout just like you normally would. Again, if you're solo, use 2 copies of heavy ammo finder. If you're in a group, use 1 copy of heavy ammo finder and 1 copy of heavy ammo scout. And then whatever siphon mod you want to put on, we are going to be using harmonic siphon because we will be using void weapons. Next up for arm mods, we're going to be using a copy of Firepower, a copy of Heavy-Handed. That way our grenade and our melees both create orbs of power. And then we're going to be using a copy of Focusing Strike. It says grants class ability energy when you cause damage with a powered melee attack. Now as for your chest pieces, we're going to do the normal setup that we do, all defensive mods, because this is going to be a very up close and personal build. So you do want to have your concussive dampers on. You're going to want to have your melee damage resist. Then go ahead and put on any harmonic reserves you want or any elemental resistance you want. So if you want to go ahead and put on like void resistance since you are a void subclass, that would not be a bad idea. Personally, I've got on harmonic reserves because I will be using a void sword and I want more ammo. Next up for legs, we're going to have our typical setup. We're going to have a copy of Absolution, we're going to have a copy of Innervation, and a copy of Recuperation. For Innervation, you can actually replace that with Invigoration if you want to instead increase how much melee energy you get back. I like to have another way to get more grenade energy if possible, since we do have other ways of getting melee energy on this build already. But like I said, it's going to be up to you. If you want to put on a copy of Invigoration instead of Innervation, totally up to you. But I would definitely have on a copy of Absolution and a copy of Recuperation. The third mod will be your choice. Then finally, we're going to have on a Reaper. This is whenever you use your class ability and then get a weapon kill quickly after, you regenerate and overpower. Because we're going to be doing finishers with this build, we'll have on a copy of Proximity Ward to give you an overshield during those finishers. And then finally, I will put on a copy of Outreach. It says reduce melee cooldown when using your class ability. You will be using your class ability quite often. Now, if you don't want to have on a copy of Outreach, and instead if you want to use a special finisher, you can go ahead and use that. And I say that because of the weapons we're going to use. You're going to want to have a weapon that can do good damage up close because of the kind of build this is. In case you can't take out whatever enemies in front of you, say you run into a yellow bar or an orange bar, you can't one-shot. You're going to want to have a weapon that can one-shot them. So either a shotgun or a sword, something along those lines. It's really going to depend on what kind of weapons you want to take with you. Personally, I will use the Outreach mod because I'm going to have a sword. I don't typically use shotguns too much, so that's why I'm using the Outreach. But if you want to use something like a special finisher, it's going to be pretty easy for you to pull that off because of how many finishers you'll be doing with this build. And like I said, as far as weapons, you definitely want to have at least one weapon that can do damage up close as kind of an oh shit moment. Like I said, this is going to be really good at taking out red and orange bars. If you run into a yellow bar, you may need a little bit more to kill them quicker. So I've got a sword that I'm using for that. You may want to use a shotgun or something. Totally up to you. I'm currently using my Crown Splitter, a void weapon, so I will be able to get orbs of power drop because of my harmonic siphon. I'm also using Water Flight. It's got disorienting grenades on it and demolitionist to help me get back my grenade and disorient enemies. So let's say I'm going up to a group of enemies, I can use this to kind of disorient them so I can get close without them hurting me. And then I've got a sidearm because I was watching John Wick earlier today, so I wanted to go ahead and put on a sidearm. That's why I did that. Let's go ahead and show you guys what the build is actually capable of and show you just how fun this thing is going to be. Alright, so here we are in the Daily Loss sector. Now, I'm going to explain one more time how this is supposed to work, and I'm going to demonstrate exactly what about this is so weird and what is causing it to do something so crazy. So I'm going to read the exotic again. It says, powered melee final blows unleash a damaging explosion, and finishers and final blows against more powerful targets increase the radiance and damage of explosions. So this should only work with powered melee abilities. So that should just be my shield throw here or shield bash if I have it equipped. I'm going to show you what the shield bash looks like when I use this. And I'm going to show you what happens when I use regular melee. Then I'm going to power up that regular melee and show you exactly what's going on with this. So here we go. I've got some enemies down there. I'm going to hit him with the shield throw. You can see that explosion around. It hit some enemies around. I made sure I chose an enemy that was far away so he would not die. So that's how it's supposed to work. So that shield bash gave me an overshield, or the shield thrower gave me an overshield. I did an explosion. That's how that's supposed to work. Now, let me drop my overshield so that it doesn't proc yet. I'm going to go ahead and get a regular melee without an overshield. Okay, my overshield's gone. You can see I'm taking health damage. So run up to this enemy. I punch him. Nothing happens. He just dies. He's a weak enemy. He'll die. Punch this guy. Nothing. Okay. Now, watch once I get an overshield. Now watch what happens when I do a regular... Let me throw away the shield here. Watch what happens with this regular punch. He exploded. Let's get another enemy. Regular punch. He exploded. When you've got an overshield, your melee is counting as a powered melee. Now, there are other ways to practice with other subclasses, but this is the easiest example I have to show, and probably my most fun subclass to do this with. So as long as you have an overshield on, and you get a regular melee attack, the enemies will explode, as I will demonstrate here. So right here, you can see all the enemies here. I'm going to wait for my class energy to come back. I'm going to get myself an overshield, and I'm just going to go through and I'm going to run through and punch everything to death. Do this whole lock sector from start to finish, punching almost everything to death. I'm throwing away my shield here real quick. Alright, here's my overshield, and here we go. And there you go. I took out the entire lock sector, barely broke a sweat, punching almost everything. I barely had to use a weapon until I got to the boss. It was fun as hell, and it was easy to do. Now, again, the way to do this is you have to make sure you have your overshield on to make your regular melee act as though it was a powered melee. Now, there are other ways to do this. I might make a series later on showing how else to make the Severance Enclosure work with other subclasses, because it does work with other subclasses. They interact a bit differently, but this is definitely my favorite way to play this exotic, because I like Void, and because I can make myself invisible all the time, and have constant devour and an overshield. So it's almost like using a Falcon's Hunter, except you're just punching your way through everything, which is a very, very tight thing to do. Now, that being said, let me go ahead and show you what today's gear is looking like. We have got on the Survival of the Strong. This is another set of Guardian Games armor. Survival of the Strong, helmet, arms, legs, and the class item. Of course, I've got on the Severance Enclosure chest armor. Now, I know I'm going to say this wrong, but it's the Melchizedek Bramble is what I have on the chest. Everything else is the Amnes Veil as far as shaders go. So that's how I was able to get this to work. The Amnes Veil did not look very good on the exotic piece, so I had to actually switch to the Bramble. That actually matched up pretty well, so that's the look we got here today. So, like I said, that is the build. It's a very fun build. Again, take it into any low to mid-tier content. That means stuff like Rage is going to be great in, Dungeons is going to be great in, and it's going to be great in Strikes, and in low tier, pretty much anything else. Your campaign stuff, all that. You're going to be taking out groups of enemies just by punching them, barely breaking a sweat. It's really, really fun. Just make sure you got something to take out enemies that are up close to you. I personally suggest a sword, but you can take a shotgun if that's what you prefer to do, or say a fusion rifle. Totally up to you. But whatever you take, just go in and have fun, because it is a very fun build to use. So, thank you all for coming by. Again, Guardian Games 2024. Hunters are in it. Titans, take this build. Go get you some points. Other than that, we're all having a good time in the games. Thank you all for coming by, and I will see you guys in the next video.